Welcome back to Questing Beast. I'm Ben. It is the end of the year, and today I'm going to be going through my top 10 role-playing games that I've reviewed throughout all of 2025. I make a lot of reviews on this channel, so hopefully videos like this one will help people figure out what I consider to be the best of the best when it comes to old school role-playing. As usual, if you are wondering where to pick up a copy of these books for yourself, I will put links down in the description below, although keep in mind that some of them may be a little bit hard to find. At number 10, we have the Perilous Void. This one was a pretty tough choice for me. It was right up against an infinity of ships, because both of these are science fiction supplements that help you generate stuff you might need for an open world sci-fi campaign. And while I love the creativity and the art in this book, the Perilous Void is just more general purpose. If you're running any kind of space campaign, whether that's Traveler or Mothership or whatever else, you're going to need an enormous amount of information. You're going to need content to give to your players. And this thing has NPCs, it has planets, it has events, it has worlds, it has monsters, it has factions, it has everything you can possibly imagine. One of the biggest challenges of running a campaign in outer space is there's just an infinite number of things that could happen and places that you can go. So a book like this is pretty much required. I've seen a number of different ones out there by different authors, but this one, in my opinion, is one of the densest and the easiest to use and the best laid out among all the options that I've seen. You can use this thing on the fly, you can use it to help you prep. It has lots of different possible ways that it can be used, but it's just full of useful content. And as a game master, that's the number one thing that I look for when I am buying a supplement. This thing's going to stay on my bookshelf for a very long time, and it's probably going to be used anytime I run something sci-fi flavored. Now, number 9 on my list is Wonderland by Andrew Kolb. I have been a huge fan of his books for a very long time. This is actually the third book that he's written in a series, the first one being Neverland and the second one being Oz. He not only writes these books, but he designs them, he illustrates them. It's pretty much a one-man show. And each of these takes a public domain world from children's literature and fleshes it out into this very sandboxy OSR style setting. In the case of Wonderland, that means a huge mega dungeon, and each of the floors of the mega dungeon is one of these semi-randomly generated floor plans that are made up of these Tetris-like pieces. Each of those Tetris pieces is one of these maps on one of these pages. This means that you can take each of these little mini maps if you want to, and scramble them and rearrange them and create your own mega dungeon floors. All of these are themed around the madness of the Alice in Wonderland setting, and they are extremely easy to use and easy to read. As soon as you turn to a page, you have the first impressions of what's going on there, the block-specific mechanics you might need to know, lots of little random tables for generating new things so that every time you visit it, things are a little bit different. And there's these very terse but very gameable little descriptions here so that you can run the players through these rooms very quickly and just refer to this when you need to know what's going on. It pulls off this wonderful juggling act where not only is it packed with flavor, not only is it beautiful to look at, but it is very high on the usability scale. Andrew Kolb is really thinking about the game master and what they need in order to run the game efficiently. And on top of all of that, the hardback is actually remarkably cheap. It's usually on Amazon for like around $20 or even cheaper. I'm not sure how it's so cheap, but I'm not going to complain. Number 8 on my list is Raiding the Obsidian Keep. This is an adventure module for old school Dungeons & Dragons created by Joseph R. Lewis. Joseph Lewis is one of the best adventure writers working today, and this book is no exception. This is primarily going to be a castle crawl, a castle infected with horrible chaos, which might also be full of treasure. We can see that we have a lot of great maps here on the inside of this fold-out cover. The book itself is a pretty slim zine-like affair, but it is absolutely dense and packed with great encounters and ideas and things for the players to interact with. They'll be making their way up this harbor of death, having any number of encounters and investigating these crashed shipwrecks along the way. You're going to be getting to these camps full of survivors from this horrible disaster that's happened at the castle. And then eventually you'll be pushing your way up through the castle itself, gaining treasure and unlocking the mystery of what happened there. As with really most of the books on my top 10 list, the keying and the layout is absolutely immaculate. Each of the rooms is very easy to parse at a glance because there's this great little piece of read aloud text, very short and to the point. It doesn't tell the players what they're doing or what they're thinking. It just gives you the most critical information about what is in that room. And then each of these bolded words are important things that are in the room that are fleshed out down here. There's lots of different ways to approach any given situation in the adventure. There's lots of people to talk to. There's weird treasure and magical artifacts you can find and then use in unorthodox ways. It has all the aspects that I'm looking for when I'm looking for a great D&D adventure. Next up is number 7 on my list, but first, a quick shout out to today's sponsor. One of the biggest problems I hear from game masters is how hard it is these days to coordinate game night and get a consistent campaign going. Fortunately, we now have EventMoot, an all-in-one scheduling and session planning platform for just this purpose. EventMoot offers smart polls for dates and times, automatic conflict detection, document libraries for sharing rulebooks and character sheets, integration for Discord, and just about everything else you could imagine. It comes with a very generous free tier with no credit card required, so you can try out most of the features without spending a single dime. All around, it looks like a real lifesaver, so go check it out right now using the link in the description below. All right, let's move on to number 7 on my list, and that is The Shrike by Leo Hunt. Leo Hunt is one of my favorite setting designers. He's working on this fantastic science fantasy setting out there called the Vaults of Varn, but the Shrike takes things in a very different direction. This is kind of a demi-plane that you can send your players to when your whole party dies. Think of it as a prison or a kind of hell that your players now have to fight their way out of when things go really bad in the real world. The world of the Shrike is this huge storm-tossed ocean that's scattered around with these enormous spiky islands. This huge one in the center has a nameless god impaled on the top of it, and his blood is running down through all of these spikes and animating and changing a lot of the residents there. You're going to have to explore this archipelago, figure out the mysteries of what's going on, and then perhaps fight your way all the way up to the top of the spire. This is a pretty dark setting, but if your players don't mind that sort of thing, I think they could have a really good time. There is a lot of places to go to, there is plenty of NPCs to interact with, there's weird monsters, there's miniature dungeons, there's just a lot of content within a relatively constrained area. Because this is a demi-plane, you don't have to worry about your players going way off into the hinterlands where you don't have any material. Anywhere that they can go is going to have a lot of material fleshed out for you. The keying of all the environments is perhaps not quite as good as the previous book, but it makes up with it with just the sheer amount of content that it gives you and all of the different types of encounters. For example, one of the big dungeons at the end has 2 high-level factions that are both present within it, but these 2 factions are snubbing each other socially, so they refuse to acknowledge the other's existence. This means that within one area, there's effectively 2 different adventures that are meshed together, that you can interact with in turn depending on how you are dressed and whether you look like you're part of one faction or another. If you've had a total party kill and you don't know what to do next, just pull out the Shrike, send the party to hell, and see if they can fight their way back to the land of the living. Number 6 on my list is none other than The Land of Eam. This is just one of the books from The Land of Eam, which comes in this giant box set with 3 or more books, including Game Master screens and a box full of extra tokens. There's just a huge amount of content. The Land of Eam is a great example of a trend that I really like in role-playing games these days, which is to create settings, to create worlds that remove most of the guesswork. It does the legwork for you. Because this is fundamentally a hex crawl, an enormous hex crawl in a very kind of more kid-friendly, cartoony sort of universe. But every single location has been fully keyed and fleshed out with who's there, what they want, missions that you can go on. It's all ready for you to use. Whenever I flip through Land of Eam, I am just blown away by just how much writing there is, how many encounters, how many different places have been created by the authors to flesh out this world. It's clearly a universe that they have a lot of love for. They've even written a graphic novel series called Rickety Stitch, set in this universe where the main character is a skeleton bard. My kids are really enjoying those comic books actually, as well as the monster manual that comes with this set. It's a bit goofy, it's a bit silly, but it's a world that has its own feel, its own aesthetics, and it feels very unified. If you want to take your kids on a epic D&D-like adventure, you could do a lot worse than starting with Land of Eam. Because not only does it have this whole world, it also has a full rule set, it has rules for creating your own characters, there's everything that you would need. Number 5 on my list is the Ruined Abbey of St. Cluid, which is an official adventure for the Dolmenwood campaign setting. I actually ran this adventure many years ago in an earlier form, and I had a really great time. As with all of Gavin Norman's adventures, it's not only very easy to read, very well laid out, but incredibly imaginative and evocative. By exploring the location, by talking to the NPCs, by investigating things carefully, you can unravel this history of the place. That not only helps you investigate it further and helps you get your objectives, it also connects to the greater world surrounding this abbey. It has plenty of weird and spooky encounters because there is a chaos rift in the basement of this abbey that is mutating and changing a lot of things in the environment. How are the players going to react to this? How are they going to approach the dangers and the different groups in the abbey that want different things? Are they going to try and purge the abbey of evil? Are they going to join one of the factions? Are they just going to try and get some treasure and run? All of those things can have long-term ramifications throughout the setting. It feels like a real lived-in, fleshed-out place with its own internal logic. And there is plenty of ways to approach any of these rooms. There's lots of different entrances to the basement from the upper level. There's more obvious but more dangerous ways to get somewhere. There's plenty of secret passages where you feel very smart once you discover them. There's big monsters that you can throw yourself up against, which may just wipe you out, but if you get to know them and you figure out what they want, there are ways around a lot of these violent situations. It's an adventure that not only immerses the players into this unique world, but it also rewards them for playing smart, which is exactly what I love. All right, number 4 on my list is the Dark Crystal adventure game. This one really surprised me. It is a follow-up to the Labyrinth adventure game, which I worked on some years ago. I think it's a very rare example of a licensed RPG that does not at all feel like a cash grab. It's a book that, instead of just taking you on a railroady step-by-step adventure through the plot points of the movie or of the TV show, it says, you know what? Let's just take the world of Thra and let's just tell you all of the things that are there, and then you can explore it however you like. It's a book that is designed for people that are new to role-playing games, people that just love the world of the Dark Crystal and want to live there. The game system that it includes is very straightforward. It's a bit more complicated than the one in Labyrinth, but still very basic when it comes to comparing it to something like 5th edition D&D. I also love that there's a countdown clock. So even though you're exploring this huge open world, you are being pushed to try and solve the fundamental problem as quickly as possible, which is to collect these magical seeds that have been spread around the world. If you don't do that fast enough, the world is going to be doomed. Essentially, it's a point crawl. You're moving from location to location within each of these larger regions of the overworld map. Every location gets a 2-page spread telling you everything that you need to know to run things at that location. There's lots of fun little layout tricks that are used too. For example, if you get to the Crystal Castle, it's all done on this big fold-out spread. It's also the first RPG that I've seen to make use of these semi-transparent sheets where you can overlay it on a map, and now you can see how the whole trap system works there. It's a beautiful, immersive, easy-to-use book that respects your intelligence and respects your ability and your desire to explore this world and uncover its secrets by yourself. It's also just a really cool artifact and a great source book for anyone who loves the world of Thra. If you want to see lots of great illustrations and descriptions of all the different creatures and types of races that live there, this is the book for you. And check it out. You take off the cover, even has this awesome design that's like embedded into the physical book. It's so cool looking. All right, number 3 on my best books of 2025 is Yoon-Suin. This is the second edition of a book that came out 10 plus years ago. And like a lot of my favorite books on this list, it is a complete world for you to explore. Now, it feels a little bit dated in terms of its design and layout, and it's not the easiest thing to read just because of the way that it's designed. It doesn't really entice you with its layout, but it is full of some of the most beautiful and evocative writing, and it paints this world that is completely different than anything else that I've seen in the RPG space. Yoon-Suin is a mashup of a little bit of India, a little bit of China, a little bit of Tibet, all put into this D&D-like blender. It's a world full of opium and tea and slavery and cruelty, but also tremendous beauty. Rather than being the kind of setting that describes to you exactly what is at every location in the world, this is a book of random tables. This is a system for procedurally generating your own version of Yoon-Suin. The best way to really use it is as prep. At the end of any session, you kind of ask your players, what do you plan to do next? Where are you going to go? And they tell you what their plans are. And then you use this book, you use all of these incredibly well-written random tables, and you combine them together to generate the new content that they're going to explore next session. And the number of random tables in this book is just absolutely nuts. It just goes on and on for every different region of the world, every different type of city. It has NPCs, it has places, it has events, all of these things that you can combine together to make new material. This is a book for game masters who want to immerse themselves into the world and to be part of the world building process. There isn't anything else quite like Yoon-Suin out there, and I feel like it is criminally underrated. Number 2 on my list is the Break RPG. This is a book that I have been waiting for a very long time, as anyone in the old school D&D space can tell you. It's a labor of love by just 2 people who have been working on this off and on for about 10 years. One of them focused on the writing and the other on the art and the layout. And the layout is really where this thing stands out. It is, without question, the best designed and laid out RPG book that I have ever encountered. Every aspect of it, every little detail is designed to make the game easier to digest, easier to learn, easier to reference in play. This is fundamentally a rule book, which seems pretty intimidating because it's like, 400 pages of rules? But it's so well broken down that you can find exactly what you need really quickly. You know when some rules are not going to be necessary for you to know, and you know when they are. The art and the setting aren't going to be for everyone. It has a fairly cartoony, kind of anime-inspired style, but it's definitely more serious than something like The Land of Eam. It's the rare, big, thick RPG rulebook that's not only fun to read, but gets you excited about playing it just by flipping through it. I would say the main thing that it's missing is a fleshed out setting. There is a section here on the setting telling you basically what it is and how it works. There's some example locations that you can travel to, but it needs adventures. It needs more content for game masters to run, especially as they're starting out a campaign. And that's something I hope that the creators will develop in the near future. And now my number 1 pick for best RPG of 2025, well, regular viewers of this channel knew that this was coming. It's Dolmenwood. Dolmenwood is the culmination of what I look for in an RPG setting. Similar to The Land of Eam, this is a huge, fleshed out hex crawl, but it is much more mature. It's much more interconnected. There is a depth to it that is really astounding. It was developed over the course of 12 years by Gavin Norman, which slowly added more and more complexity and richness to this world, which is this deep, dark, fairy tale fantasy forest. This is only one book in the entire box set. This is the biggest one, which covers what is in every one of the hexes in Dolmenwood. But there's, of course, a book that is a monster manual. There's one that you can get that is just a map of Dolmenwood, but broken down into like a dozen or more different layers. So you can see where all the different factions are, where the ley lines are, where the different types of monsters are, where the shrines to the different saints are. All of these different features that are interconnected. There's a book for players, and it is a complete role-playing game system, so you don't need to own anything other than the Dolmenwood core set in order to run this game. The rules are essentially old-school Dungeons & Dragons, like BXD&D from the 80s, with some tweaks to make it fit better into this world. This has been designed as a world that you can absolutely lose yourself in. You could run a campaign that went on for years set in Dolmenwood without ever seeing all of the content that's in here. It's an absolute masterpiece, a landmark of RPG design, and is not only my favorite book of 2025, but is undoubtedly one of my favorite RPG books that I have ever read. All right, so that's my list of my favorite RPG books of 2025. Let me know down below what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What were your favorite books that you came across this year? As usual, I will put links in the description below for where these books are available if you want to pick them up for yourself. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.